Hey, welcome everybody. So the last time we learned about creating an app, we learned the Dicey app, and in the Dicey app we noticed how we created two dices which were randomly generating numbers between 0 to 6, and that was and there in that app we learned how to generate random numbers. We learned how to connect that to an array, and we also learned how to connect that to a button. So this time around we're going to create a similar app, and this app is going to be called myCutieMac, and as the name suggests, this is about my cutie Mac, who's my dog, and we would learn the same process of creating an app here, a little more interesting by including some pictures here of my dog, and we would randomly select the pictures whenever we click on the next button or the random button. Now what I'll also do is while we're learning the code this time, I'm going to tell you a couple of more things. Perhaps we are going to use a little more elegant code, so we will first do it in a very regular method, and then I will tell you a couple of more methods of doing the same coding so that it becomes more elegant and we use less lines of code. One of the things that we learned last time was to use functions, and now I'm going to use functions as well as I'm going to use some of the tricks as well. So let's get into it without further ado, and let's open up, kick on Xcode project. So this is my Xcode project, and this is going to be a single view application. So I'm going to call it myCutieMac. Now you can call it whatever you want, and you can also have a similar app done for your favorite cutie pie. You could do it for your dog, you do it for your cat, or you could do it for your loved ones, your family, your mother, your father, your girlfriend or boyfriend, or whomever that better half may be. So I'm going to call it myCutieMac, and I'm going to click the next button, and I already tried this, but I'll do this again for you. So this is going to be myCutieMac, and I'm going to create a folder here, and I'm going to create the app. So now we see a single view application which has been opened here, and obviously we will have the assets, the main storyboard, and view controller. So first let's go to the assets and pull in some files to run this app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a folder which I already have to basically add some pictures of my dog. Okay, so here's some pictures, and before I did that, I'm going to add some icons here. So we learned last time that it's very simple. You just simply have to drag and drop the icons here like so. And we also learned that the 2x and 3x format essentially are formats which tell you what resolution that the picture is going to be. So here's the format. So we're done with that. All right, so now next thing is let's drop in our pictures here. So I'm going to drop in the pictures of my dog, and before I did that, let me add some background images as well. So I'm going to add a couple of background images here. And the good part about naming convention is if you name it the way it's supposed to be named here as Xcode wants it, then you can simply drag and drop here without worrying about the naming convention. But I'm not going to get into the UI aspect of it. I'm simply going to drop all the pictures here, and I'm allowing Xcode to use whatever naming convention it wants to use. So the pictures have come in as 1x. Alright, so let's go into the main storyboard, and here in the main storyboard I'm going to create a background image, and for background image, as you know, what we have to do is copy a UI image or label image. So I'm going to drag the image here and I'm going to place it here, and I'm also going to drop it here. Now either you can put in an image or you could simply change the color. So I could have, so let me just show you. So I could have gone here and I could have changed the color of my background to, let's say, something like this. But I put in an image because I thought that I wanted a very specific kind of texture there, and that's the reason I did not use the option of making a color happen. So I'm gonna put in an image here and I'm gonna give it the background of a green felt. Now this is done, and now I'm going to insert my main image here, or perhaps also include the logo. So I'm going to have a quick small logo here, and below the logo I'm going to have another image, which is the image which I want to fiddle with. So this is the image that I want to play around with, and this image is going to be dynamically created. So I'm not going to add anything here, but it looks really bland, so just for the sake of having a pick, I'm going to keep something there. And so these are the images that I'm going to randomly choose. All right. Okay, so also what I'm going to do is, instead of scale to fit, I'm going to say aspect fit, because the image otherwise will look little odd. And I mean, my images are not in order, and they are not of the right size and all of that, so you know, that's the reason why they are not really coming nicely here. But the reason I wanted to sort of keep this image here the way it is because I want to focus on the app. Alright, so now I'm going to add a button here. So let me just take it a little up. Okay, alright. Now I'm going to add a button here, and my button is going to be pulled out from here, and I will add the button here. Okay, and I can give my button a size of 30, and I can call it click. So I can call it cutie click. You can call it whatever you want to, I mean, it's not the point. And as I said, command equal to will give it the right size, and I can also change the background color of my button. So I'm going to make it look red. I know I'm really bad with all the color variations, so you can plan your color variations. I'm just going to focus on the app itself. Obviously, if you choose some sort of darker color, then that looks nice. Hang on a sec. So let me just choose something which is okay. I think this looks nice. Okay, so we're done with this. Now what I will do is I will open up my assistant editor, and I want to see my code. So here's my code, and right now nothing happens, obviously, if I do anything with the image. Now what I'm going to do is, of course, I'm going to right click on my mouse and then drag my image here, and this is a UI, so I'm going to give it a name. So I could say my dog image, and here I don't have to specify a number because it's just one image here. So I say on my dog image, it automatically gets connected. Now I'm gonna use the cutie click, and I'm gonna drag it, So either I do this or I do control and right click. I find control and click. I find right click and dragging to be easy. So I can say this as button pressed. So I'm going to use some intuitive names because it makes sense here. So I say button pressed, and this is not an outlet, this is an action, so be careful about that. And you can call it as UI button, and you can use any of this. So you, depending on which one you choose here, so this is touch up inside, which means you have to click inside the button. If you have an option which is like did end on exit, so when you when you move out of the image, the action will take place. Touch down, repeat. So there are a lot of actions that you can choose. Touch up inside is going to be the one which everybody uses. It's 90% of the times. So I'm going to use that, and then I see an IB action button pressed created here. Now I know that button pressed is a really boring name, but I just thought I'll give it that name. Now let's say I want to remove this name, and after do that I just can't remove the code from here and move on. Now I need to right click here and also remove this link, the view controller button pressed. So I have to remove that. Otherwise just removing the code doesn't help. So you have got to be careful about that. So I'm going to do it one more time. And this time I'm going to give it a better name perhaps. So let's call it Qt click. And click on UI button and say connect. Right? So now buttons are established. There are two buttons primarily. We don't have to do anything with this guy. This is just going to stay there like a dumb layer. So I'm just keeping it because I think my dog is really cute and I want to give him a diamond every time I see him. You can do anything, just go wild with your app. So pictures, all of those things you can play around. Now I just want to show you how do I create a random image. So the most basic method of doing that is create a variable. So random image pick, random image dog perhaps. Okay, and it's going to be an integer, and I have to initialize it to some number. So let's say 0. Okay, and I am going to also add an array here. So the array is going to remain the same. So let's just say array dog array, right? And I'm going to give it a closing bracket, and here I am going to specify the name of the image. So as you notice that the image names were Mac 1, 2, 3 all the way to 12. So I'm going to say this is Mac 1, and this goes all the way to number 12. Mac 1, so I've got to do this 11 more times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Alright, so I've got to do this thing of changing the name. Cool. So this is my 12th image, this is my second image, this is my third image, fourth image, fifth image, sixth image, seventh image, eighth image, ninth image. I know. 11th image, and we're done. So we have created an array, and that array has 12 images inside that. So it starts with Mac 1, which is this one, and it goes all the way to Mac 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, so now since we created the array, I'm going to create, so let me do this in a little elegant fashion. Let me create a function because I'm going to use codes in multiple location. So let me create a function called random pick, and I will do all my coding here, and then I'll just assign the random pick wherever I want to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the random image dog variable and assign that to a random number. So how do I do that? I do that by typing random image dog, and I will say that equals to arc. So you already get this arc for random blah 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 blah. Now here we've got 12 images, so I'm going to use number 12, and as I had told you in the last tutorial, this is of a different type, UIT, so you simply fix it and it adds an integer here and we are done. Now once it does this, I want it to pick my image, so what I do is I say UI image, I take this file, okay, I take this particular variable which Xcode has created, and I use the image property of that because that's the one I want to manipulate. And if you remember, the function was UI image, and we say pressed there, and here we are supposed to add a string. So instead of string, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my dog array, and within the dog array I'm going to give it a value of random image dog. Okay, so this is pretty much our code, and there's some problem with it. Let's see what the problem is. So there could be an issue here, and what I will do is, hang on a second, dog array, here let's say I put a string here, let's say hello, okay, and we'll see if it works. So sometimes when the code doesn't work, you simply have to, so this, hang on a sec, so maybe this particular function does not exist. Well, that's cool. I can simply say go to Google and type the UI pressed option, UI image pressed option, and when I do that I get a lot of options here. Okay, so probably you can't see it, so I'm gonna just show you here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check for options of copying the image. And this is the best part about coding, right? I mean, you will not know it. I don't know everything. You don't know everything. Yet you keep checking, if you want to assign the image to some place, what happens. So you can use Stack Overflow is the best repository. So this is Objective C options. And we want to go and check Swift option. So I'm actually doing this as we speak, because when you check it the way we speak, okay, all right, here we go. So this is the one, right? So we got to use this particular option here. So I'm gonna type that there. So let's say and here I could have used an image of Mac 1, and let's just run the app now. So it should show me one image, and that has to be the first image. And the good part about coding is that if you don't know something, I mean, you got to go and research, and there is no problem in copying somebody's code as long as you know what you're doing, because it's not that you would know everything about the code. It's just that you got to ensure that you know what you're doing. That's about it. So my code should be ready, because it should run, and I should get the first Mac 1 image when I see it. Hang on a sec. I think my function needs to be called here. I have not called my function. So if I don't call my function, this won't work. So my bad. I need to call my function. So I'm gonna run this code one more time. The next time is going to be faster, so don't worry about it. So just wait a second. So what we did is we basically called out this particular random image. We assigned it a number here. We're going to put that here. But before we did that, I just want to show you that the dog image will change to whatever image I've sort of given here as the value of. So I've named it as the first image, and I should see the first image here in my app. So just give me a second. And I should see that when the app loads up. Oh, sometimes the image don't load up because they are of a different color. Or they are behind the other images. So I'll have to probably go back and put this new background behind everything else. So as you can see, there are a lot of warnings coming here because this image is not exactly matching the right size, and sometimes because of the aspect ratio also there are issues. Okay, so now we got it. See, there's a bit of gaming that you have to do. So this is my first image when I click. So this was the first image which came here. Okay, so as you can see, I had to do some bit of research, and this is the fun part about coding. And never be afraid about your code breaking. So if the code breaks, that's okay. You can go check the net. You can figure out if there is some method which is there which you can add, and so you can play around with it. I mean, it's not like a building, and this is what I like about coding. So if you're building a house and if you make a mistake, then you have to take everything out, put it back again, and you have to build that house again. But as far as coding is concerned, all I need to do is just remove this line, add a new line, and my code is perfect. So that's the best part about coding, and I think that's really a nice feature. Okay, so I don't want the image number 1 to be displayed. I want a random image to be displayed, right? So what I will do is that I will go and say dog array, and I will assign a random image to it. And where do I pick that random image from? Oh, I already have a variable with a random image here. So I'll take this variable and I'll throw that variable here. Okay, now this variable will generate any number from 0 to 11. Okay, so this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you got to be a little careful when you're doing coding, because arrays always start with an index of 0. So the good part is that the way the functions are also created, they sort of are able to manage this particular idiosyncrasy of arrays and the index, because if this was taking all values up to 12, then we would have had an error here, because it would have picked up something beyond the 11th index image. Now we've got this random image dog here and the dog array. Now the next time the code runs, if we click Qt click, we should be able to see fresh image every time. Some sort of a random image should come in, right? So let's just play that out. Okay, so this is the first one, the second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one, eighth one, and it's just picking out random images. So your app's done actually. This is your app. Okay, and you can see it nicely. All right. So what I'm also going to do is that once you're done with your app, I want to do a bit of elegant coding. So first thing first, what I want to do is I want to give you a couple of examples, right? So we don't need to have this particular line of code. We don't need to first assign something to a random variable and then that random variable picks up something from the array. What we can do is we can directly go and pick a value. We can completely take care of, we can remove this code from here completely. We don't need this code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this code altogether. Okay, and I will take this particular part of the code, which is to simply generate a random number, and I'll insert that here, and I'll remove this particular variable. So by doing that, I have got rid of 2 lines of code, and the lesser the lines of code you have, the easier it is for you to understand. So here you create the array and keep all your images, and this function is the function which lets you pick Qt click, and the function is actually picking up all those data from here. So here you would notice, and it's throwing up an error, which is fine, don't worry about it. Sometimes it will throw up an error, and you can simply so I'm just trying to figure out what could be the reason that this error is coming in. So what it's doing is, let me just see, it says insert comma there, expression. No, I don't need to insert a comma. So this guy is going to generate a number, okay, and that number is going to be converted to int. Now again, array is going to take array is going to take a number. So No, so I'm fine with that. And you got to play around. There's no problem. There's no loss of face. If you see they're making a mistake here, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's fine. So in this particular case, the dog array that we have chosen here is taking a value from here, and I'm gonna do something even simpler than this. So let's just take this thing out. Okay, and in the named category, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to use the name of the dog, and I'm going to use something called a string interpolation. So string interpolation is when you add the value of a string here and you add a random number, the arc function that we use. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to add my variable. Okay, and before I go into the next step, I will go and do another play. So now what I'm going to do is, instead of putting a name here, I will put a string, which is going to be the first part of the name, and the second half of the name would be backslash, and it would be random image dog, close the bracket and close the value. So what I've done is, this is called string interpolation. So in this particular case, instead of using an array, I've directly gone and picked this image from here. So I've used the first half of the image, which is a string. So this doesn't change. The only value which actually changes is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 can be generated from here. So I've combined that and this using something called a string interpolation. So that is basically a backslash, and you put the integer, whatever you want to, within the brackets, and you encapsulate that, both of them, with quotes. So this should also work. Let's just give it a shot. Okay. So this is also working. Great. Excellent. So this is another method of doing it. Now I want to play with it one more time. I just want to see if I can use my array, dog array, which should throw out a string value, and here, instead of putting random image, I'm going to use this entire int value, and I'll not remove the variable right away. I'm just going to use this because it should have worked the last time. I'm surprised it didn't work. Yeah, I think I did not copy the code properly. I missed probably one bracket. So now I can remove the random image, because what I've done is I've taken that particular code and I've added it here. So the arc for random uniform, I've directly added into the array, and now I can remove this particular line of code. Okay. So basically I think we're missing one bracket somewhere here, and now again it's going to do the same thing. So we've taken out two lines of code. Basically what we did is we assigned this image, the UI image, an array value, and the array value was equal to dog array plus a random number we generate, and that number was generated in a different format, the UI int format. We converted that into int format. Okay, and that further got converted into the array number. So one of these. Now let's just run the code again and see if it works. And the build was succeeded. It's working. It's working perfectly. So this is our myCutieDog app. So as you would notice that, you can play around with the code and you can make it, play to your tunes. You can do different methodologies. Just ensure that, you have a creative mind, and you're willing to go back and, if you made a mistake, it's fine. Just go back and do Control Z, go back and, create another uh, file, or probably you can use that file. That's fine. There's no harm in sort of playing around with this codes and see which one is more elegant. So the reason I'm saying this is more elegant is because this code looks smaller than the previous code that we have, and we have completely removed the need to have a variable assigned here. So there is no need to have a variable. This is dynamically generating a random number which gets assigned to this particular array, and that determines the image property of this particular variable. So this particular variables which we have connected through this. So I hope you like this tutorial, and you should try this out with your own images. Just use images that you would like your mom's image, or your girlfriend's or boyfriend's, or I don't know, wife's image, whatever you feel is appropriate, and play this around, and you can show them this app and they really love it. All right, so have fun using this app, and do not hesitate to put any comments in the comment section, and I'll see you for another app next time. All right, have a great day. Bye bye.